What's going on, guys? Marshall from the YouTube channel Main Deck Masters. For those of you who don't know, it's a Battle Spirits channel. I'm here doing a deck profile for one of my best friends, Devlin Cassidy. For those who don't know, we may do a lot of Battle Spirits content, but we also play a lot of Vanguard too. And we're also members of Team Kingslayer Cards. So we're a lot of us are anyway. So we're gonna be giving you today. I'm gonna be giving you my Spike Brothers deck profile. It is going to be what I plan on taking into our 1K event that's going to be going on in 2 weeks at the time of this recording, and then possibly into our BCS season this year. I think this deck is really good, and I think it's going to be really nice in the meta, but we have yet to see where it will place as of with like a history and stuff like that. We're still testing it. So, with that being said, let's get into the profile. Starting off first, we have our starter, obviously. We have Mecha Trainer. If you're not playing an SP starter, you play Mecha Trainer. Rule of the Spike Brothers code. Going to triggers, we have 4 heals, obviously. 4 heal guards, obviously. We have 4 stride crits. Some people have asked me, like, why aren't you running the triggers that, like, are draws when you check them defensively? And I could see the reason why. But I like these a little bit better. I would probably end up switching them out just because I also am playing Nova. But having this ability to just discard to stride, having more options to stride, because you stride to kill in this deck for the most part, it's just a little better. Next, we have 2 draw PGs. They're draws. They're here for late game. I'm not trying to go too far into the late game, but they can save your butt against like an over trigger or something like that. Next, we have 2 crit sentinels. I think crit sentinels are going to be a lot better going after history collection, because after history collection, a lot of decks are just going to ride up stride and go nuts. And having 30k shields is a little bit better. Because you could just go, alright, cool, I've healed Guardian once, and now my Vanguard's at 50k. You can take the Vanguard swing, you can guard 1 with this with the Vanguard swing, bumps you up to a 50k, which becomes a 3 to pass, which is like pretty good. So I think 30ks are going to be definitely a move in the future. Next, we have one of the playmakers of the deck. 3 copies of Mecha Instructor. Mecha Instructor, obviously, if you've ever seen gameplay of Spike Brothers before, you know what this card does. He sets boards, he flickers boards, he gives you multi-attack. Everybody knows what he does at this point. And then for the Overtrigger, we're running a Dark States Overtrigger. I did test with the red Overtrigger from Festival Collection, but I decided that I wanted to run this instead. This just, if I hit this early in the game, it's just GG at that point. Like, it's just over. If I hit this like turn 1, turn 2, like the pressure that this card gives off is just too stupid. And then like the red Overtrigger, most of my rear guards are going to the bottom of the deck anyway, and I can't call something from my hand if I have a rear guard on board, because I have to target the rear guard first. So the only time you get to call is if you don't have a board. So because of that, giving the restand effect to a unit, especially on like Galley Gabaris, while I'm striding Galley Gabaris, means cool, it's gonna go to the bottom of the deck at the end of the battle anyway, so I'm not gonna get the restand. And so it's kind of there. I definitely think the Dark States Overtrigger is the best way to go. Next, we have onto grade 1s, 2 copies of V Series Acrobat Verity. Top 5 searcher, gets you your grade 3s, and definitely with the grade 3 lineup that we are playing in this deck, it's a lot better to get your grade 3s, because that provides you your ride up potential. So definitely 2 of these. After that, we have 2 old Acrobat Verities. Old Verity means I can grab a grade 3 off this, or if I have one in my opening hand, it gets me Rising Nova. This deck has to ride Rising Nova to be able to compete, and for the most part, and Like, turns are a lot less powerful without Nova because you're getting the double force markers. So, you need to see him as much as possible. After that, we're playing 3 copies of Reckless Express. Reckless Express is a really good card. I originally, whenever I seen this card, I doubted it. And I thought this card was complete horrible. But then after playing with this card, the high roll potential of this card is absolutely phenomenal. Being able to call this on going second, ride this, get the quick shield, get the ticket, then Soul Blast 1 and get like an agile fullback means you have a 20k attacker on turn 1. Which means you could just go ham from there on. And you have officially swung tempo in your favor off of this one card alone. And this also just helps you find your pieces that you need in case you're missing like a grade 2, for instance. And you can check top 7 and get a grade 2. Because most of the time, if you get one grade 2, you can get any grade 2. So it's just a little bit better. And again, it going into Soul and doing the thing is kind of pretty good. So yeah, definitely this card. I've been a big believer in this card after testing with it. After that, we have our last grade 1. 4 copies of the Playmate of the star of the deck, I would say. 4 copies of Ambush Dexter. If you don't know what Ambush Dexter does at this point, he's a split Pegasus. Like, you on place, you CB1, you eat a grade 2 or greater rear guard, you call 2 of the same grade. They could be different names. So you eat 1 to get 2, which is pretty good, and it's on place from anywhere. It doesn't matter where it's placed from. It can be called from deck. It can be called from bind. It can be called from hand. It does not matter. As long as he hits the rear guard circle and you have a target when he hits, it's pretty good. This is by far, in my opinion, the most broken card in this deck. And I could see in a meta where like Spikes becomes the really good deck if everything else, like all of the top decks get hit and Spikes becomes the number 1 deck, I could see people claiming for this to be banned. On to grade 2s. We have 1 copy of Jumbo the Stun Gun. This card lets you play through 1 Hanali on Galley Gabaris. It lets you play through 1. If they have 2, you sort of just cry. But it also lets you do your turns through 1 CB, so you can still get a lot of attacks off of 1 just from this card alone. And then if you have to damage deny and you ride this card, it swings for 8. So it swings under 9Ks, it swings under 10Ks, and then you just go from there. Next, we have 2 copies of Cheer Girl Fiona. Cheer Girl Fiona is essentially what, for those who have played Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's essentially an effect veiler. To an extent, as much of an effect veiler as you could get in Vanguard. When this card intercepts, or when it's placed on Guardian Circle, you can Soul Blast 1, target a unit, target any rear guard, and it'll gain 10k power, but then the controller cannot pay the cost for any of its auto abilities. So, say, like, playing against Great Nature, Devlin, you can throw this on the rear guard, and you can target their Amazing Professor. You can target their Crayon Tiger. You can target, like, all of their Restander cards that give their Restanders effects. Like, end of turn effects, like, they would retire, like, they have an effect to retire themselves. That is gone. If retiring itself is part of the cost for the card, they cannot pay it. So it shuts down a lot of things, and especially in the meta that we're going up into, where it's where a lot of strides are going to be, a lot of decks are either going to be riding up and then striding while you're at grade 2. Having something like this to just shut down big combo turns is just really necessary, in my opinion. Next, we have 4 copies of Rona. Rona is literally the best ride in this deck. She fetches a grade 3. She calls it to the rear guard immediately. So on grade 2, you can call a grade 3 and start swinging for 13. And you just get a lot of advantage that way because you're applying more pressure. And then also she can boost a grade 3 if she's behind it. If she's in the back row behind in the same column. So she turns that 13 into a 23, which is pretty good. And obviously this card, flickering this card multiple times, and with some of our other grade 3s that we're playing in the deck, is just really good. So yeah, she really doesn't need any explanation at this point, other than that. And then last of the grade 2s, we're playing 4 copies of Agile Fullback. Agile Fullback is really, really, really good. He's just a better Bracky because he gives you a 4th attack, and he gets big. Definitely in this build that I'm playing today, that I'm showing you today, this card got cut, or this card cut Bracky out of the deck because this card just does its job but better. And now on to the grade 3s. Four copies of Nova. Obviously, Nova's good. Nova's great. He gives you Force 1 and Force 2, and he copies your grade 3 abilities, which is pretty good. But he does not copy names, which at the time of this recording, I always hated that he didn't copy the names because of cards like Dudley Emperor, where you need Dudley names on Vanguard Circle to proc its other effects. But we did just get a reveal for Overdress with one of the new mask units, and it's pretty good with this deck. I think it definitely, in the Rising Greedon deck, which you obviously know at this point, like it's said to be the best version of Spike Brothers, but I sort of disagree. I think there's another deck in contention, which is this one, but they play very similar. It's definitely pretty good. Nova is definitely the best grade 3 Spike Brothers has ever gotten, and I could also see him being banned as well if they were to ever, for some ungodly reason, hit spikes like they hit Great Nature. I could see him getting hit just because of the it opens up card design for Bushy Road. After that, we have 2 copies of Juggernaut Maximum. Juggernaut Maximum, he's not a bad ride if you need to be a little bit more defensive, but then also he's really good when you mix him with Nova, because he gives Nova the restand effect on him and whatever's behind him. So it's pretty good there. Yeah, like, the card needs no explanation. Next we have Dudley Lucifer. Dudley Lucifer, obviously, this is your primary call target off Rona because it's Soul Blast 1 to countercharge, so you just refund the cost. You turn Rona from a CB into a Soul Blast, which this deck provides plenty of, so you don't need to really worry about that. And then it becomes a really good rear guard, and it's literally the only, other than Jumbo, this is the only form of countercharge that Spikes will ever get, because Spikes is one of those clans that they don't want to give a lot of resource regain to, because it just lets you do like big loops and stuff like that. Last, and this is for the spicy tech, and this is why I think this deck is a little bit better than the Greedon deck, because I'm not playing Greedon in this deck. 2 copies of General Siegfried. So for those of you who don't know what this card is, General Siegfried says, act not once per turn, CB1, choose one of your rear guards, put it into your soul, search your deck for a copy of that card, it gains 10k, and then this unit gains 10k. So if you copy this with Nova, your Vanguard will gain 10k, and the rear guard will gain 10k, which immediately makes it where, okay, now I'm on a Force 1 and a Force 2, or I don't have to put the Force 1 on my Vanguard anymore because my Vanguard's getting power. All my rear guards are getting power. Like, everything is just getting a lot of power. So you can sit there and grade 2 game, and if your opponent grade 2 games and doesn't ride up or stride, you can just go, all right, cool, I'm gonna kill you, because you've given me enough resources to do what I need to do. And then his other effect is, when this unit hits, Soul Blast 2, stand one of your other rear guards and retire one of your opponents. That effect, giving it to a restander with Nova and Juggernaut, means you have more likely of a chance to hit. All of your rear guards are big. You have a restanding Vanguard, and you have Force 1 and Force 2. So this combo, in my opinion, is a little bit better than Greedon. You're sacrificing one Vanguard swing and a Twin Drive for 3 to 4, possibly 5 or 6 rearguard swings. So that makes it a lot better, in my opinion, because it applies way more pressure and you can potentially just kill them that way. Whereas to like Greedon, if they have a heal guard, it's sort of the Overlord logic where if they just have a heal guard, they're gonna live the turn and then you die on the crackback unless you hit a ton of triggers in your drive checks. So this is a lot more lethal of a turn, but requires more resources. But Greedon is less lethal of a turn, but you sort of get shit on for not having, for like, if your opponent has the right cards. So it's like, cool. I definitely think this card is a lot better, but that's also because Greedon always likes to flock to my damage zone, and it's just never a good time. Last card in the deck is we're running a 1 copy of Forbital. This is the new order from Festival Collection. For those of you, I assume you kept track of the game if you're watching this video. This card is from the Festival Collection, and what it is, it's a normal order that you can play. It's a regardless piece, so you can only play 1. When you play this, you search your deck for 2 grade 3s and call them to rearguard. You search your deck for 2 grade 3s and call them to rearguard. Because you're searching, because you can ride Nova, play this, search these. So this card right here gives you your entire combo for Nova and is essentially a 3rd copy of both Juggernaut, of any of your grade 3s in your grade 3 lineup. So it's an extra copy of all of them. Other than Nova, obviously. So like that card is definitely a godsend for most decks, including DP and Spikes and Mega Colony to an extent, and Great Nature to an extent. Like, it's pretty darn good. On to the G-Zone. The thing about the G-Zone is the G-Zone is mostly open for Spike Brothers. As long as you have a few key cards, you don't really need to worry about it. I will preface this. There is supposed to be a Harmonics Messiah in here, but at the time of recording, mine hasn't come in the mail yet. And yeah, and Devlin was pushing me to get it out. So, love you, buddy. So we're going to go from here. All right. G-Zone, 1 Ractome, 2 Terrible Linus, 2 Villainous Evita, 2 Hecatongace. That is it for the G-Guards. The suite of G-Guards really doesn't change. Like, G-Guards and Spikes are all kind of mid anyway. There's no like really busted ones other than maybe Evita. But then again, it's just like one of those, you play with the hand you're dealt. On to the G units. In this list, like I said, it's pretty open, so it's just pretty much what you want to play. As long as you have like a couple of few key cards, you'll be fine. With this one, we have 1 copy of Hellheart 8, 1 copy of Dirty Picaro. I like this card because I like not being able to, if my board gets blown out or I have no resources, this card gets me a board that can swing, which I really like. But then again, I see why. You never really use it. I just also really like it, how I really like the card. Like, I really like the look of the card. After that, we have 2 copies of Violence Ace. This card is my go-to against Chaos Breaker. It's just, alright, I'm gonna draw cards. Cool, I'm gonna draw more cards. I can't play against Breaker anyway, so I might as well just draw some cards, because either I'm gonna force myself to deck out very quickly, and then the game will be over, and then I don't have to worry about it, or I'm just gonna draw a ton of cards, give my Vanguard a ton of power, and they're not gonna have a PG, and I'm gonna hit crit over trigger. So that's the game plan. So who knows? Like, Breaker's a losing match for this deck anyway. This is supposed to be the Harmonics Messiah, but for right now, I have a placeholder as a Marindal. Like I said, this is supposed to be Harmonics. The new Harmonics Messiah. If you know what it does, you know. But if you don't, at the beginning of the game when you ride your grade 1, you can flip it. You can reveal it in the G zone, and then you get a 20k shield ticket, which is essentially another quick shield, but it's a 20k. It's a 20k guard, which is pretty good. And then obviously it does the whole unlocky bullshit that you know from Harmonix Messiah. Definitely a good play to do after this. So you draw a ton of cards off this, you hopefully just guard their turn, and then you go into Harmonix. It gives you the cards to ditch, and then you can obviously try to combo off from there. So it gives you options to be able to fight Breaker, which is always a godsend, because this clan has always had a bad Breaker matchup, and that will not change. After that, we have 2 copies of Villain Verminous. He is only here to fight Mega Colony because he calls from hand. That is the only reason he's here. That is the only reason he will continue to be here. And as long as Mega Colony is relevant, this card is in my G zone. And then for the last stride, which is the stride that matters, we have 2 copies of Galligabaris. Galligabaris is the godsend to Spike Brothers. It is the best first stride and the only stride that this deck will ever use now. And it is just really good. So thank you Bushy Road, for giving us a really good first stride, because this deck never had one for the longest time. The best stride we had going first was Agrius, and we all know how that goes. It's not very good. So thank you, Bushy Road. We appreciate all Spike Brothers players. Appreciate you giving us this card. Well, guys, that was the deck profile. I hope you guys liked it. That is what I'm going to be running more than likely into this BCS season, unless obviously playtesting goes awry and I think that it won't do well. But if I'm going to be playing Spike Brothers, that's the list I'm going to be playing. So I hope you guys have a good day. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe to Devlin. He's awesome. And any final thoughts that I would have is definitely test the deck out. Don't write off Seafried. Devlin can attest to this. This card has won games against a lot of decks that I just shouldn't have won against, because they just grade 2 game me and I blow them out the water with it. So don't write it off immediately. Don't get that stuck in your head that Greedon is the only way to play this deck. I think this deck has a lot of potential, and I think a good pilot can pilot this deck very well and take a top spot with it. So with that being said, if any of you guys are interested in Battle Spirits content, and Devlin, I'm giving myself a plug here. If you guys are interested in any Battle Spirits content, please go and check out the YouTube channel that I'm a part of, Main Deck Masters. We post a lot of Battle Spirits content. We post a lot of gameplay videos, a lot of shorts, a lot of skits, a lot of informational videos, and we're trying to build that community as much as we can, because the game is fun. So we're gonna just go check us out over there, and it'll be a great time. See you later. Peace out.